And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett, and he is Mark Messina. This is probably we went from not having anything to talk about to I had to figure out how to fit about like 8 different topics on here. We'll see which ones stick and which ones don't. You have a crazy stolen plane story. The war in Ukraine is still going on. There's some new information that's pretty wild. The weather has been pretty wild all season long. Harry Styles is in the news now and probably forever. I don't fully understand it, but he did something at an event that we want to talk about. Kyrgios, who we've talked on the show before about whether or not he's good for tennis, he put on a show and a display. CVS just did something. There's a new Apple event. There's a new billionaire coming for Bezos. A lot of stuff going on. Mark.
Other than that, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Not anything happening in the world.
Mark, how are you feeling today?
I'm wet. When you go outside, it's hard to not get. Are you an umbrella carrier?
Never. I don't know if I honest to God, I don't think I've ever owned one or have one.
There are.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy when I'm in like my kid's car, my mom's car, and I'm just like, I wonder what's under the seat here because it's raining. So yes, I will be the one. Well, obviously you are too. Yes. That we're trapped in the office and it's pouring, and you realize I have to get to my car, and everyone else pops out an umbrella, and like I don't have one.
I just don't. Wet has never bothered me.
I hate being wet.
See, yeah, my dad's the same way. Now, see, my dad worked outdoors, so if you work outdoors and once you're wet, it's miserable because now you're cold and you're like in the elements. So I understand for him, like quick story, he used to get really upset because we would use the bathroom in the morning and there would just be like little pods of water, like you get out of the shower,
that drives me.
And he would get his socks wet. And it would it would set him off. Now, in hindsight, I totally get it. Because when you're about to go work outdoors, what's worse than wet socks?
Welcome to parenthood.
Yes.
That is how can you not keep the water in the tub?
So at the time, we used to be like, oh, you're going to melt. But now in hindsight, like, I totally get it. I mean, it would be a nightmare.
Now, this is also coming from the basketball player.
Yes.
Who it's hard to get wet in the gym.
No, but it's the same thing. Like once you're sweaty, you're sweaty. But
that's different.
Like having sweaty socks and a sweaty shirt has never bothered me.
It's different.
Does it bother you? Like when you're done working out, are you like, I gotta get out of the sea?
Sweat is different
than
rain.
If it is.
I've told people this 100 times. As a football player, I would have rather played in 25 degrees and dry than 75 degrees and wet. One of the stupid things, like in baseball, and I've told people this a lot, because baseball, obviously, sometimes you're playing a mist, but especially at this level. But if it's rained, and they can dry the dirt out a lot quicker than they can dry the grass out.
Sure.
So your feet get wet. So when people talk about pitching and they talk about the wet ball, I'm like, no, it's the heavy feet, because now your delivery is just different. Because you have to work harder to kick your other leg up because your foot's heavier. And they're like, well, it's not how much. It's not that much heavier, but it is. And throwing a football as well, it's not so much. I mean, if it's slippery, it's slippery. But once the ball gets waterlogged, a football's not very heavy. When if you actually hold it, I don't know what it actually weighs, but it's not all that heavy. But once you waterlog it, now it's heavier by 20%, 25%.
Sure.
And all the mechanics of it are just different. So the weight of the water during sports. Now, just in general, like outside, and if it's raining, I'm miserable.
No, I can remember. I was always confused by it, but now in hindsight, I totally get why he would get upset about being wet before he left the house.
No, like if you're a lineman, they didn't care.
He was a lineman.
Well, different. I was thinking offensive lineman, but yes. And yes, once your feet are wet, if you don't like wet feet. Like the other day, what was happening, because my sneakers are canvas, and they're like those light runner sneakers, even though they're not, I don't run, but I dug through the closet to find an old pair of leather sneakers, because I was like, once I walk outside, I was going to Troy to the JV football game. Mm-hmm. It's like, once I walk outside, my feet are going to be soaked for 4 hours, and it's going to make me miserable for 3 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah. So I found a pair of old leather sneakers that I wore. It's the first time I've worn them in a year, but just to keep my feet dry.
Good for you. Fascinating. A stolen plane. Tell us the story.
I just flipped through my phone. I got it on the Newsbreak app or whichever one. And guy stole a plane somewhere in Mississippi. Was it Mississippi or Alabama? One of those two.
It up real quick. You were telling me the story.
He took it up, was circling. threatened to crash into Walmart.
Yes.
Now, of all places to pick on, like, maybe he knew that would get the biggest response. Like, you can smash whatever building you want in town. Don't mess with Walmart. But that was his threat.
Man who threatened to crash stolen plane into Walmart didn't have a pilot's license. I did not know that part of
There's
the
a
story.
shock.
Didn't have a pilot's license. It says Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay, I knew it was one.
Northern Mississippi. He had threatened to crash into a local Walmart.
I'm guessing he worked there. He was at least familiar enough that people recognized him. Although this is such an outlandish thing. I mean, I'm 50. It's the first time I've ever heard of it. I've heard of hijackers, but never.
Let's guess some of the facts. How old was he?
The guy?
Yes.
Mid-30s.
29.
Ooh.
Yes. Walmart store. He was 29 years old. He was in custody and charged with grand larceny and making terroristic threats now, according to the police chief at a press conference. He was an employee of the airport in Tupelo. I hope I'm saying that right. Tupelo. He allegedly stole the Beechcraft King Air C-90A for all of you aircraft nuts.
Absolutely. I have one of those.
He did it at 5 a.m. when the air traffic control tower was unmanned.
Okay, so he was familiar enough. That's what I was going to say. How do you just walk out into the hangar, take a plane?
Yeah,
Jerry and I were joking about this the other day, and Jerry goes, "You hop in the plane, you hope it's fueled." I said, "Oh, I would think." He goes, "Well, it's not like the guy's going to fuel it first. You hop in and you hope it's fueled and you take off." So
it says the plane ended up being low on fuel. With some instruction from a private pilot, Patterson was able to land the plane about 30 minutes later. The plane sustained minimal damage during the landing. To me, of all the things, like you got to have some kahunas to steal a plane.
Yes.
I'm assuming he's never flown one before if he doesn't have his pilot's license. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm guessing he had to, because he had to know what he was doing. He had to know enough.
I know, but he didn't have his pilot. Maybe he's done some simulators and stuff, but you're saying he could have taken lessons, but then just never qualified.
Or somebody
for the
knew,
license.
like he knew somebody with maybe like on a farm there was like crop duster planes. He must have known enough.
Okay.
Because there's lots of people that drive cars that don't have a driver's license. You just kind of, this is how you do it. So I don't know. When I saw that, it was like, dude steals plane. It's like, that is a good story for today.
It's definitely a good headline.
Yes.
I don't know where you go from there, but it's definitely a good headline.
Can you see him in prison? Like, what did you do? Like, he's got to be like the man in Cell Block D.
I stole a plane.
Like, I stole a plane.
And landed it.
What'd you do? I took it up. I flew it around. I told him I was going to crash into Walmart. And
then I landed.
And then I landed.
Like a pro.
Yeah. I landed it.
It does sound like, remember I was telling you about Florida Man?
Yes.
The most dangerous person in the world. It does sound like a Florida Man story. Yeah.
Florida
man lands plane after stealing it and threatening to crash.
but there's another thing. Like, what'd you do with it after you stole it? Yeah, I flew it around a while, landed, got arrested.
Yeah.
Like the stealing the plane part is like the good part of the plan. After he stole it, he didn't really do a whole lot except get arrested.
It's just like OJ and his Bronco. Like just
yeah, but OJ was distraught.
You don't think this guy jacked himself up enough to get into a plane and threaten into a Walmart? You don't think he was a little distraught?
No, I don't.
I think he might have been. Are you implying OJ is guilty?
No, my God, yes.
Oh, okay.
You don't think?
No, I do. It's just fun, comical. Not comical, but I do think there are people that believe he was not.
Believe me. Now, I do. I know people who think it was the son. And he took the rap.
Yeah. Oh, there's all different theories. Yeah, it's just like any other good mystery. There's all these different theories now.
Yep. But you know what would be neat? If OJ wrote a book that was like, if I did it, how would I have done it?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And then he did.
Did you read that book?
I didn't read it. I had one friend who said they started it and they couldn't do it.
Just because it was poorly written?
It just wasn't very interesting. If you truly believe, if you think you know what happened and what he did, there's not much to read there.
Okay.
So that was their take. I put war and weather. I feel like those should just be the two tabs on because every day I open this up, there's Ukraine, there's Russia, and there's a heat wave. So I feel like the first two tabs.
Ain't a heat wave here.
No, not right now. We are wet. The one thing I did want to tell you about, just to keep track of Ukraine and Russia, there was Russia is basically saying, like, if this continues, it's going to be a real struggle for Europe. So they're almost trying to threaten the world. And basically, Europe does
just let us win.
Like, let us win, because if you don't, Europe's in trouble. And he's not like, it's an insane idea, but the result is not incorrect. Like, Europe is in trouble. Their energy costs are going to start going up as it gets colder and colder, moving into the fall and the winter. So he's not wrong. They have some real crisis coming up in Europe. The flip part of that is Ukraine is coming out and reporting. This was just on Yahoo. They're reporting that they believe Russia has almost no missiles left. And the reason is not because of, you had mentioned poor storage. I forget what else.
Poor warehouse management.
You had said something about poor inventory. It's actually neither. They do not have the microchips needed to actually direct the missiles.
Okay.
I guess safely, like around their soldiers and the properties that they want to keep. So yes, so they are actually, Ukraine thinks they're actually in a little bit of, like, not an advantage, but they're kind of like, no, like, they're almost out. Like, we know for a fact they don't have a lot because they don't have the microchips they need in order to do this.
Well, won't China give them more?
I would imagine China would give them more. It'll be interesting to see. You would think they would have gave them to them already, though.
No, I know.
The interesting part about that, though, is China's got to be figuring out what to do with their resources with Taiwan and everything else that's going on. But of all the things, like, if you're a Russian official and you're waking up today, and that just hundreds and thousands of missiles lined up, but you only have like 25 microchips left. And the phone calls that they must.
So I'm picturing like some 75-year-old general. He's like, fire. And they're like, we can't. There's a microchip. I don't need a computer. I need a missile. Yeah, but now the microchips go in.
Yeah.
Since when? So, yeah, I can imagine that there are some old fuddy-duddies who are like, I didn't even know there's a microchip in there.
So that'll be interesting to see. You can't, like you said, like, I guess you call China, but I'm not sure how you resolve. You got to have them. Like, if you don't have them, it'd be hard to fly them blind. I guess you could go back to, like, the old days, but I don't know if the missiles would even work without microchips.
Have you ever thought, not to go off on a tangent?
No, you're fine.
Have you ever thought what this Russia-Ukraine thing would be like if Trump was the president?
I have this feeling in my gut that it probably wouldn't have happened, and I don't even say that in, like, a positive way. I just don't think, I don't know if it would have just been Ukraine and Russia. I feel like other nations would have gotten involved. I don't know if it would have been just like this, its own little affair on the other side of the planet.
Who else do you think would have got?
I honestly think we might have been more involved than what we are right now.
Oh, I think so.
And I'm not implying good or bad. Like,
I thought
I'm not
you meant
smart enough to know if it would have been a positive, but
do you think it still would have started?
I see. I'm in or out. I think it wouldn't have started to begin with, or we would have been very involved in it, one or the other. This whole middle ground of, like, it's happening, but we're not, like, I don't think that would have been the case at all.
Correct. I agree with you. So either it would have scared them because they might have been like, we're not going in because he might bomb us all.
Sure.
Or we're going in anyway, and then yes, it would have.
And there is some, like, there's also too, like, some diplomatic aspects to it where I think Trump probably would have been a little more cordial with Russia, for better and for worse. I think that there would have, the weirdest part about the Biden stuff is not being fully invested in Ukraine. Like, that's like the one toe in, one toe out is kind of wild to me. I'm not saying
but isn't that how the whole world is handling it?
That's how the whole world is handling it. But I think some of that is also kind of because of how we're handling it.
Because we let it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm too dumb to really, like, know what would have happened or how it would have played out. But it's a very fair question. My whole point is I don't think there would have been this middle ground. I think there'd be no war, or I think we would definitely have our hands.
Or we would be fully vested. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. The other part was, I said to you, weather. They're releasing this doomsday glacier, holding on by its fingernails. It is a glacier the size of Florida. They just released yesterday that it's melting faster than what they had expected. I feel like I'm repeating the same story that we've been reading off for 10 to 20 years. I'm not trying to downplay climate change. I've said to you several times, I feel like climate change is real. However, I always feel like the aspects of it are much more like rushed than what it ever ends up being. However, this one is the big one. It's called the Doomsday Glacier. They're saying that if it does melt, it would rise sea levels at a minimum of 3 feet all the way up to 10, which 3 feet is, in sea level rise, is magnificent. It's huge. So, yeah, it's melting faster than they expected.
So it's going to break loose.
Not that it's too big to break loose.
Okay.
Their argument is that it's receding
I understand.
faster than what they had expected. So it's not so much the fear of it breaking loose and like floating around.
Because most of as they break loose and they drift into warmer waters, they melt
faster. This is just like, this was the meat and potatoes, and it's kind of melting faster. Even the base of it is melting faster than what they had expected. And then heat waves everywhere, except Pennsylvania last week. Finally, we got some rain.
Is it amazing how, even though we know what's going on, we know there's fires, we know there's floods, we know there's droughts, when it comes to weather, we are so egocentric that it's
like,
just
if
like,
it's over there.
Yeah, it's not ours.
So
California can burn every day.
Yes.
Here, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it raining?
Yes. I heard two really intelligent people talking about this on Vox, and they were talking about the heat waves because obviously it was bad. We had talked about it earlier about in India, how bad it was before the monsoon season.
Right.
And then we had talked about China's heat wave and how bad it is. And obviously we have some parts here in the country. They were talking about how the biggest issue with heat, when there's a hurricane, it's loud, it's windy, it's destructive. Like you see, there's a path. They have names. And they were talking about with heat, the problem is like it's invisible. And like it doesn't really leave a destructive path. And so we do have this sense of like when people talk about drought or heat, it's very easy for us to just be like, and just kind of like move on from it or not talk about it. So there's a panel that is being put together, and they want to basically treat droughts and heat waves the same way they treat hurricanes and like tornadoes, where there's like levels and categories, and then there's names.
To make it more eye-popping.
So people kind of get the umph to it. 50% of me is like, what a stupid 2022 idea. The other 50% of me is like, from a branding standpoint, it makes a ton of sense because it will make people take it more seriously.
Well, one of the things when I was looking at some of these maps this summer, and I know Western PA was fine. Not all of PA was in a drought. West and South were okay. It was our region, North Central PA, and actually the northern tier was worse than we were.
Yeah,
it was very dry up there. And you just kind of get to, you look outside and you're like, I need rain in my front yard. But then you also realize that, you always need rain kind of north of you.
Yeah.
That's what feeds the streams and comes down. So really this summer at like 50, I'm watching the radar. I'd be like, well, anything going across the northern tier is good.
Sure.
Because they need it, and then it trickles down to us. So it's
absolutely.
But yeah, there is a sense of old when you really care about the weather, and when you sit out on a back deck and watch it rain, and it makes you happy.
I get it. I think I think Pennsylvania is unique in the sense of because we're just kind of ready for everything. I think there's this idea that like weather happening in other places of the country isn't a big deal. Like we're ready for snow. We heat wave. Like most people here now do have some sort of air conditioning, or you go to like a large facility, there's air conditioning, but then like the same heat in the Northwest is devastating. The same snow in Georgia is devastating. So I do think Pennsylvanians have this aspect of like when they hear about like climatic weather across the country, I do think we have this kind of like pooey mentality that we've adapted because like we deal with it and we're like, look around, we're fine. I do believe that.
I don't know if it's that. I just
you don't think
like
so?
Doesn't affect me because I'm here and it's fine. I think people don't care because you're right. Some of these there's places in the U.S. that are going to seem like they're going to run out of water.
Yeah. Well, the Mississippi, you saw the Jackson where they couldn't like pump the water through. And
yeah,
I mean, Jackson, Mississippi is 100,000 plus.
It's not small.
It's not tiny.
It's the capital.
Yeah. And the idea, just no water like going through.
Did you know that? Did you know Jackson was the capital of Mississippi?
I think I know all 50. Pretty sure. My girlfriend makes fun of me because I still know all 50 states.
New Hampshire.
Concord?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm pretty sure I know. We're not going to do it right now, but I'm like 99%.
What do you mean we're not going to do it right now?
Ahead, give me one more.
South Dakota.
Move on. Bismarck.
It's North Dakota.
North Dakota. South is St. Pierre.
Good.
Thank you.
Is it? I don't know if it's a saint. I think it's just Pierre.
Pierre?
Yeah, but you're right. It is Pierre. You would have been on Jeopardy. Well, no, on Jeopardy they're kind of sticklers on that. But you were close enough for me.
I got you. We're going to have a little fun with this next one. I was
Nevada.
telling you, Reno, Carson City. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, what's worse?
Is it
to
state
spit?
capitals?
Is it worse to spit or to slap? That's going to be the next one here. I told you about the controversy that's going on with the Don't Worry Darling movie. It premiered at the Venice Film Festival. There was a whole to-do about this star-studded event. For those who are movie buffs, Olivia Wilde, Chris Pine, Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Nick Kroll, a lot of famous people involved in this movie. Apparently, though, the cast is not getting along. There have been several things of pictures being rearranged so people don't have to stand next to each other. There was an incident where one person didn't come to any of the interviewing stuff because she didn't want to have to actually talk to anybody.
And then she made an excuse. She said she was filming another thing somewhere else.
Yes, but they found out she wasn't.
Yes,
which is wild.
Her alibi fell apart.
Yes. Chris Pine is now a meme for rolling his eyes while other people were speaking during these interviews. The final fireworks of all of this was there is a scene as they announce Harry Styles, who is really on top of like the pop culture world right now. Like if you and I made a list of 5 people, I don't know if we could find 5 people. So Harry Styles, as he was going to sit down, there is video of him making a gesture with his face towards Chris Pine, and Chris Pine stops clapping, looks down into his lap, and does kind of like a okay. And then Harry Styles sits down and just kind of smiles and looks at him. So this is basically Spitgate. This is a Seinfeld episode. This is the Zapruder film all over again of whether or not Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine at the movie premiere before he sat down. I have seen the video. I am of the belief that he definitely, I don't know if it was spit. I don't know if it was gum. I don't know if it was a fingernail. I don't know, but I am of the belief that he definitely put something onto Chris Pine's lap. So here's my question to you, because we have dove into the Chris Rock, Will Smith slap. I just explained to you the Harry Styles spit. Which is worse?
That's a very good question.
Is it worse to spit on somebody or is it worse to slap them?
Because usually with these, you can just kind of jump to an immediate answer and then.
Right.
I don't know.
This is tough.
This is really tough because the slap is so. I mean, they're both.
There's a physical
there's
harm
a degrading.
to the slap.
Yeah, but it's more just like the degrading.
But I think there's a physical abuse that the spit misses out on.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like you can see how much the physical abuse didn't hurt Chris Rock.
Okay.
You know, so it's which one is more insulting?
I think the spit is more insulting. But I do, but I think the slap is more degrading. The spit is insulting, like I spit on you. The slap, though, is degrading in the sense of like I think I'm bigger, stronger.
Aren't
whatever.
Insulting and degrading?
No, I think you can. No, because I can insult you without degrading you.
Can you?
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't think so?
I mean, I think degrading is a little. It's it's to a further degree, but I think they're certainly in the same realm. I don't know.
I can say you're stupid, and that's an insult. But
Is it degrading?
But I can say you're stupid because your mom was stupid. That's degrading. Like, that's the difference.
I think calling someone stupid is degrading.
No, it's an insult. But then when I tell you why you're stupid,
I don't know.
degrading.
I disagree with that. I'm gonna have to
you don't think so?
I'm gonna have to look up what Noah Webster thinks about degrading and insults.
Was that really Webster's first name?
I thought it was Noah.
Is it? I don't know. I've never heard that he had a first name. Well, yeah, I didn't know.
Oh,
that.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Learn something every day.
I don't, because at least with the spit is more just like an inside joke, even though it's not a joke. Because the whole world wasn't supposed to see it. He did it subtly. He did it.
I mean, he's doing it at a movie premiere,
but
as he's getting announced.
He didn't spit in his face. He didn't. I think he was just trying to.
Let me ask you this: where does he think people are looking as he's being announced?
Well, that's a valid question. I don't know. But when did this happen? Yesterday?
The actual spit itself, I think Monday.
And he has made no comment?
That or it was this weekend. A lot of the stuff came out September 5th, but I think the reason it came out September 5th is I'm assuming the Venice Film Festival was Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
Now, when the actual...
But Venice doesn't care about Labor Day.
That's true. So maybe it was the 5th.
Has either of Pine or Styles made
I
a
have
comment?
not seen either of them make like a public statement about it since. I have not seen it.
Now, part of the conspiracy theories are that drum up publicity.
Yes.
And they're going over the top.
Correct.
To drum up publicity, which is
it seems like a lot.
But I would think because Harry Styles' image just took a huge hit.
Well, this is okay. Let's say you and I made a movie and we had to figure out a way to drum up interest.
It would be a hit.
It would be a hit. But let's say this one wasn't. So we had to figure out how to drum up interest. I feel like this is the part that never makes sense. Going to the actors and saying, "Hey, do you mind taking like an ego boot, like a bump? Like, do you mind taking like a ratings bump personally, like so that the movie can get some buzz?" And it never makes sense. That part of it never makes sense.
No.
Because these people don't look very great right now.
Okay, so here we go. You and I make a movie and we're afraid it's going to flop. We need publicity. And you get first choice.
Okay.
Are you slapping and then getting spit on? Or are you spitting and then getting slapped? You get one, I get the other. Which would you choose?
But I have to go first. Is that what you're saying?
Either one. You get to choose first.
I would say I want to be the retaliator. I would say to you, you do whatever you want to do. Just know I'm retaliating. Because that's the real winner there. The winner is whoever gets to be the retaliator.
Is it?
You don't think so?
I think if I come over and slap you and then you just spit at me, I think I won.
No.
I do.
People are going to be like, what a jerk. He just went over and slapped him. I forgot, though.
Well, yes.
I forgot, though. You're a little more Team Will Smith than the average person. I forgot about
No, I'm not.
Yeah, remember we had the whole conversation.
I am not Team Will Smith.
I'm not saying you are Team Will Smith. I'm just saying, like, most people are like Chris Rock here and Will Smith here. And I'm just saying you're more like...
No, I think Chris Rock has mishandled now. I think Chris Rock should accept the apology and move on.
I think it's impossible for him to mishandle right now. Short of going out and just like talking about Will Smith publicly, I don't think there is a way for him to mishandle this. Chris Rock, if 10 years from now Chris Rock said I'm not over it, I think I'm okay with it. I think I would be like, you know what, Chris? Fine, whatever. You're not making a scene. It's not like you're talking trash on him every day. If you're not over it yet, fine.
Okay, but from a career-wise, it's probably fine. From a like human level wise,
emotional struggles.
There's a problem.
Totally, his own interpersonal ones, yeah.
Yes, but I'm not talking about Chris's career. That he's hurting his career by not. I'm just like, and I call him Chris because we're on like a first name basis like that.
Sure.
Like,
see, I think
I don't think there's anything.
I think the physical abuse aspect of the slap, I think that is going to end up holding way more weight than like if Will Smith would have walked up on stage and spit on him. I'll tell you what, if Will Smith would have went up stage and spit on him, I bet you way more people would still be defending him right now that I think about it. Because they would have been able to wrap their head around the idea of like, he made fun of his wife.
It
wasn't a physical. Yes.
It was, what word am I? Symbolic.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Now, I still would have vehemently disagreed with it, but I think, so there, I think that's our answer. I think that right there proves that the slap is worse than the spit.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm thinking it's a valid. It is. I like the path you took to get there.
We have Nick Kyrgios for anybody who's big tennis people. Kyrgios.
If you're not a tennis person, Kyrgios is entertaining.
This is the guy to watch if you're not. He basically lost his mind and started breaking his rackets after he lost. He said, "I honestly feel like crap." He told reporters, quote, "I feel like I've let so many people down. These 4 tournaments, the Grand Slams, are the only ones that ever are going to matter. It's just like you've got to start it all again. I have to wait till the Australian Open. It's just devastating. Like, it's heartbreaking, not just for me, but for everyone that I know that wants me to win." So that was his quote after breaking the rackets. I have never loved somebody who stands against a lot of the things that I stand against more in my life.
He lost in the quarters?
Let me look to be exact.
Because if it was Tuesday, they would go.
Yeah, the U.S. Open seemed like a golden opportunity. He had defeated the defending champion in impressive fashion in the 4th round.
Okay, so then it goes 4th round to the quarters.
And then obviously no Nadal. Djokovic was unable to compete. So basically the field was wide open. He crashed out in a 5-set epic to Russia's Karen Khachanov in the quarterfinals.
Okay.
So he obviously, it says the frustration at such an opportunity slipping away simmered over. He smashed 2 rackets on the floor, buckling their frames beyond use. And when I'm telling you, like, this was not like he threw the racket. This was like a guitar, like against the stage, like pieces flying apart. And he did. And then when the one broke to the point where he had nothing else, he went over and grabbed the other one and started slamming that one. Here's my point. I adore this guy because he cares. Like, I really think he cares. And now on the flip side of that, I think he probably has some real losing issues. Like, he has some real, but it is so hard to find people. Like, I really believe his stuff is genuine in the worst way. But I appreciate it because in this world today, it's all genuine.
Because it's authentic.
Yes. And so, like, I watch the things he does and I'm like, God, I should hate him. I should hate him. And then at the end of it, I'm like smiling and I'm like, I just adore him. Like, I think he's great. So I don't know.
Well, he's entertaining.
Yeah.
And every good story needs a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of times,
I don't know if he's the villain.
In the really good stories, we root for the villain.
We root for them. That's fair. It's a very good point.
So I'm with you. I think there's an aspect, like I always tell my son and I always argue about this. I'm like, just you get in the end zone, you hand the ball to the ref.
Yeah.
Like, when you make a 3-pointer, you don't have to do this stuff. You don't have to do.
I know.
You know,
you hate it. I know.
It's stupid. It's all stupid. And I was like, just like the success, the touchdown or the basket should be good enough. But if nobody acts like an idiot after they score a touchdown, then it is a little vanilla and it's a little boring. So, like, you need the people to act. It's like you tell your kids, like, you want to hang around the people that do stupid stuff. Just don't you do the stupid stuff, because they're fun for parties, but you don't want to be the one getting in trouble. So it certainly makes for tennis for being better that there's personality. People used to complain about Tiger Woods that used to slam clubs and swear.
Yeah.
And I said, nobody, like, other than the old racist golfers who didn't like Tiger because he won all the time and he was black. But I said, the people like me don't get mad that he slams his club and swear, because I slam my club and swear.
Sure.
Like, that's us on the course.
Right.
So for the guy, most red-blooded American males don't lose politely and dignified like tennis demands that you lose. So when we all knew that kid growing up.
Yeah.
And the one who you're like, I'm not loaning you my racket because if you lose, you'll break it. So I think there's a real world aspect to him because there's some of these guys that get underneath in the tunnel and just lose it.
Absolutely.
So he loses it on the court. Like, do I want my kid to do that? No,
Right.
But I'm with you. He is great. He moves the needle entertainment wise.
Without saying a name, there are politicians. There are politicians that like my dad loves. They're not that like I don't necessarily love. And my argument to him from time to time would be, if I acted like that politician, you'd kick my ass.
Right.
And so my conflict here is like, I know that if I acted like that, or if one of my friends acted like that, or if someone I loved acted like that, I would be like, what are you
If
doing?
one of your players acted like that.
Right.
Right.
And so like I'm so conflicted by it because at the same time I'm just like, this is like beautiful because like he cares. Like it's not like there's definitely frustration to it, but it's not like even when he was arguing with the umpire a couple of months ago, there is this concept, this idea of like, I am here to win, I am here to compete, and if it doesn't happen, I have failed. And so if you are in the way, move. And even if that means my racket, like even if that means my racket.
It's funny why psychologically we can, whether it's someone we know, so like you said, like you wouldn't act that way. You wouldn't allow your players to act that way. Someday you want to allow your kids to act that way. I'm in the same boat. I was at a Little League All-Star game. There was a fly ball to the outfield, and I just happened to be friends of mine. Their kid was in left field, and the kid missed it. And they were distraught. I have no dog in the fight, and I'm telling them like, it's kind of a tough sky right now, and it's All-Stars. He's played infield his whole, whatever. But I'm like, you're gonna think this is stupid, but it's a high sky, and it's not as easy. It just makes it tougher. And then the mom looked at me and goes, if Jimmy would have missed it, you'd be pissed. And I was like, yes, I would.
Yeah.
But I'm telling, and it is so like when it's not your kid or your brother or your family or your player, you can watch it and laugh. You can watch it and be sympathetic. And I'm with you. I find Kyrgios entertaining.
Yes.
And I can't wait till he plays again.
This will be the last thing that we'll shut up about him. There's something lovable about him, and it transcends like the acts of the fits and the acts of frustration. I think there's something lovable about a person that is so clearly talented. Like he's gifted. Like but he's not quite one of the best. And so there's something very lovable about the person who is like knocking on the door.
He's still the underdog.
Yes, he is. And so like if he was somebody who had like numerous grand slams and like had one and
I agree with you.
But he's not that
guy.
Then
he'd just be an arrogant jerk.
Yes. Then he's just this guy throwing his rackets around and he's upset that someone else has what was his. But this is someone who is truly like so close to everything he's worked towards. And you can just see like the ceiling won't break. And so I don't call it a pass. I just call it like, I just find it very, very redeemable at the end of the day.
See, and you're too young to remember this. When Andre Agassi showed up, he was hated. He was this kid from Vegas. He had long hair.
Oh, yeah.
He wore, back then everyone wore white in tennis.
He had people didn't like his earrings.
He had the earrings. Okay. He wore flashy color, and he stood at the baseline and just hit the ball as hard as he could.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't go to Wimbledon at the beginning of his career because he wouldn't follow the dress code.
Yeah.
So he would play the other tournaments. He didn't go. And he finally showed up at Wimbledon, and he could not, like, I don't even know if his sneakers had a logo on it. Okay. He came walking out, and everything he was on was lily white. He got like a standing ovation. And then as he went on, he became like beloved. Yeah. The same, Muhammad Ali was the same way. Now he started out, protesting the war and then he ended up being beloved. If this guy made a run, and I think especially in New York, because New York's a different kind of tennis place.
Sure.
If he gets to the finals, everybody's going to be on board with one. If he wins, and maybe if he wins one, he'll mellow. But
Possible.
But I'm with you, because he is the underdog. There is a lovableness. There's almost a Hannibal Lecter-ishness to him. That he's a bad guy, but we love him anyway.
Yeah.
I get
agree.
it. I'm with you.
We're gonna fly through some of this. CVS, I told you, they just bought out a company that specializes in making house calls.
Yeah,
So
you told me that.
So I found that interesting. I threw it on there in case we didn't have enough for today. The Apple event. Apparently, we're going to be getting an iPhone 14 today. They're also talking about an Apple Watch 8 and possibly new AirPods. So the Apple, it cracks me up because I feel they just never change the Apple events. Like if you watch one, it's almost like same concept, same idea on the stage, floating devices.
If it ain't broke, is that what we're going with?
That's pretty much. I would say that's it. And then I had told you the last thing I wanted to mention to you today. There is an Indian billionaire who is closing in on Bezos. He's now listed as the third richest person in the world at $137 billion. And he is a college dropout. So
what's he do? How do you make his money?
So he basically has a bunch of holdings. So here, like for an example, here are the names of his companies: Adani Total Gas, Adani Green, Adani Enterprises, Adani Transmission, Adani Ports, Adani Power. So basically, he has just gone into these different sectors and just like taken them over on that part of the world.
How old is he?
He looks older. It doesn't have it.
He has to have been around a while to acquire all this.
Possibly. It doesn't have him listed on here. So right now, as of the end of August, Elon Musk still at $251 billion. He's almost $100 billion ahead of Jeff Bezos at $153 billion. And then this Gautam Adani surpassed the Arnault family, $137 billion. Bill Gates at 5, Warren Buffett at 6, Larry Page at 7. Steve Ballmer is number 9, the owner of the Clippers, and then Larry Ellison is number 10 still. They're all creeping up on $100 billion. I would imagine within the first quarter of actually by the end of this year, we will have 10 people that are worth over $100 billion in the world.
Huh. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
And we are not 2 of them.
We're not 2 of them. We are almost Emmy nominated.
Almost.
Very, very, very close. This was the last question I wanted to ask you today. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it. There was another high school in West Virginia, side of Pennsylvania, and they had 28 kids, and they canceled their football season due to like not wanting kids to be put in harm's way. What is the minimum number for a high school football?
This is what I would say. And I know Massey went nuts on Sayre.
Yeah.
You can line up your kids. Not all 28 kids are created equal. And if you just know, if you have two linemen who are varsity ready, and that's if they're healthy.
Sure.
And then you get, your running backs are going to get hurt. Your quarterback's going to get hurt. Because you rattled off some scores the other day. I mean, there are some blowouts when teams are winning 70-21.
Can I tell people that the numbers real quick?
Go ahead.
I went through the District 4 football scores from last weekend. There were 19 District 4 football games. 15 of them could be classified as a blowout, where either the other team didn't score or the other team won by 4 or more touchdowns.
Well, that one was 70-21.
It was wild. And then there were 4 games that were within like 2 to 3 touchdowns. One game was, I think, a 3-point game. But I mean, you're talking 80% of the football games in District 4 last weekend were, I mean, very clearly there was an inferior team on the field.
Yes.
And so I think it's a fair question to ask. And listen, not to call out Sayre or this team from West Virginia. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, should the other 12 teams there were 15 teams that got blown out last week.
Right.
Should those 15 teams consider like not playing? Like, I guess what I'm saying is like, where is the line and what, like, I think what's happening is these teams waited to do it. It's not like it was June.
Right.
And they were like, hey, we can't do
Well, maybe
this.
did they play a couple games and then be like,
So this team played one game They scored twice. They lost 44-14.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the other thing about this school. The school's athletic page, the team was a year removed from earning a share of the Black Diamond District Championship, losing in the first round of the West Virginia High School League playoffs.
Okay.
So you're talking less than 18 months ago, they were arguably the best team in their district and in the state playoffs.
Right.
And now they're saying we can't play.
It's just the interesting thing about football is different. If you're outclassed in basketball, you just lose by 50. If you're outclassed in baseball or softball, you strike out. If you're outclassed in soccer, you lose 8-0. Even in wrestling, if you're outclassed in wrestling, you just get pinned quicker.
Okay.
In football, you can't get pinned in 17 seconds or 32 seconds. It is play after play after play.
Sure.
And there is I get it. There really is a safety factor to it.
Okay. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if I fully get it. I'm trying to understand, because if your argument is health and safety and all that stuff, I could look at what just happened in District 4 and be there's no way every team was safe. If we're saying that, if we're basically saying
right,
a blowout or being physically incapable of not being blown out dictates that you need to question the safety of your players, and we just had 15 out of 19 games be blowouts in District 4, then what are we saying?
No,
what made those 15 teams willing to be blown out versus that team not being willing to be blown out? I would argue it might not be health and safety. I don't know. This is just me admitting that I'm not really sure if I agree or disagree with that sentiment.
And yeah, no, I do. I know what you mean.
And it's early on in the year. Maybe those scores will begin to balance out. And so I'm not sitting here implying every week we're going to have 15 catastrophic blowouts. But that's mostly the argument is there's no point in risking our safety to get blown out. But it's 15, half the district just did that last week.
Well, I wonder too with the Sayre situation, did geography have an aspect to it? Because they're pinned up against the New York state line,
mm-hmm.
if they're further in state where they have more options, mm-hmm. where they can find Bucktail and Montgomery, and Wyalusing's already up there, and who is Cal Valley, and Cal Valley's kind of up there too. I don't know if they could find opponents. And one of the things that I wonder with schools like that, with a school like Sayre, should they play teams that they can compete with and play them twice? Mm-hmm. Because high school football doesn't do that. The NFL does it. Mm-hmm. If you're conference, you go home and home. Is it okay for Sayre and Montgomery to have a home and home? Mm-hmm. And for these really little schools that are in danger of losing their season, mm-hmm. find 5 teams you can compete with mm-hmm. and play home and home. Yeah. You're not going to win a state title because we see that there's still the dominance, the Cantons of the world. But you'll have your season.
Yes.
I think that's the next step for people to look, because it's hard to find 10 teams at any level, that are of equal competition to you.
I just think there's an ebb and flow to this stuff. Let me put it to you this way. Whether it's Sayre or this team from Virginia or whoever it may be in District 4, no team has ever gotten on the bus and said, we shouldn't play this game because we are harming the other team because we're so much bigger, faster, and stronger, and we're going to win by 44.
No, but you do know it, though.
What's that?
You do know it.
Yeah, by week 3 or 4, you're looking at the schedule and yes, there's going to be a team that's 0-3. I get that. The point I'm making, though, is any school that's doing it, I would ask myself the inverse of would we not get on the bus to come play us if we were really, really good because we were worried about the health and safety of kids? And they would say no.
That's valid.
That's
a valid argument.
If this team from Virginia, because I don't want to keep throwing Sayre under the bus. If this team from Virginia,
West Virginia, by the way. Let's keep these states straight.
If this team from Western Virginia, wherever from the the Appalachians.
Yeah.
This team from the Appalachians was still good because it sounds like they just won a district a year or 2 ago. Did they ever get on the bus and go boy, I don't know if
we're going to pummel these dudes and we feel bad.
I don't know if we should get on the bus. We might be putting kids at jeopardy. Like we might be putting other kids'
kids'
safety at.
I get
So
it.
I don't know. I guess I just don't really know if I fully buy into like the idea that like the kids are at risk. Because I feel like if they're at risk, you can't tell me 15 other teams weren't at risk last week.
No, I get what you're saying. I do. You make a strong argument.
Weird. Anything else before we go?
Which is rare.
I know. It doesn't happen often. Anything else before we head up?
No. Stay dry.
Stay dry.
That's about it. And we haven't had that. We haven't had to say that very much. It's supposed to stop today, but this has been you're really old and it's a drought when you're just thrilled every time it rains. Yeah. Like I was happy. This would be like a dreary day generally, and I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah, just sometimes you say things and I'm like, Mark's not old, and then other times you say things and I'm like, Mark's getting old.
I check my weather app multiple times a day while it's raining to see, because at the bottom, if you scroll down, it tells you 0.35 inches of rain in the last 6 hours. And that makes me happy.
My weather, because like, some people watch the weather. Like they'll literally just watch the weather. I go in ebbs and flows because in the summer, I have the radar app all the time because of my Jeep. So I'm always trying to play the clouds and the radar. And then in the winter, I'm always checking it because of just like, are we going to play or are we not going to play stuff? But then in the fall and the spring,
there is no weather.
I can't tell you, like the weather doesn't exist in the fall and the spring. I can't tell you how warm or cold it is. I can't tell you if it's going to rain or snow. It means nothing to me those 2 seasons. So it's funny how
one of my favorite things about weather now that I'm a parent and kids are so good with technology or whatever, but they'll be walking out the door and way underdressed. You'll be like, dude, you need a sweatshirt. He's like, oh. I said, yeah, but at 9:00 tonight, it's not going to be this warm. And it tells you on your phone how warm it's going to be. Like it tells you. Yeah. It's not like you can be like, whoa, I didn't know it was going to be this cold. Yeah. You do know. It's right there. Yeah. So that always cracks me up.
When I was in college, I used to sometimes say, I'd be like, don't look at the weather because it might stop us from going. Like if we were going to go tailgate at Penn State and they're like, oh, what's the weather? I was like, don't look. Because if you look and it looks like it might rain or like whatever, like we won't go. So I was really big on like just completely avoiding it when I was younger because it would have stopped us from going and trying to have like fun.
So, I missed my brother's 200th win.
Okay, because it rained.
Because it was supposed to rain.
And you didn't go.
And I didn't go. And
so if you would have avoided, you would have went.
I would have gone. No, I watched it on TV and it was, it was in Yankee Stadium and it was, but I like the weather, the radar map looked. Yeah. It looked, like a kid's art project. There were colors all over the place.
Right.
Like, why am I going to go all the way there if it's going to rain? And then first pitch, it was sunny. It was like not a cloud in the sky. And I felt lied to.
Jeff is going to become a golfer this fall, Mark.
I doubt that.
That's a lie. I don't think that's actually happening.
I doubt that. Jeff has the emotional level of a golfer. He would be fine. But I think
I'm calm enough to be a golfer.
Yes, you do.
I would be. I did golf for the first time this summer. It was part of the wedding weekend over Labor Day weekend. I did shockingly well for someone who doesn't golf. I think I would get, my problem is like I do have a little bit of like OCD. I think part of the reason I was a good shooter in basketball is the OCD-ness of like shoot, rep, shoot, rep, shoot, rep. And my fear with golf is I will fall into the same thing. And I just don't want it to consume my
It takes
life.
A lot of time.
It takes so much time.
It's a lot of time.
And I'm the type of person that would just shoot like over and over and over. Like I would just refill the bucket of balls until I had nothing left. I mean, it would be bad.
And you know what you should get if you become a golfer?
What?
Don't get a golf glove. Get those like construction worker gloves like the kid wore in the Little League World Series.
I did say, oh yeah, that was good. I did say to my friend, we were getting ready and like, I think we were on hole 2 or whatever. And he started putting on a glove. And I was like, we wear gloves now. Like basically to like signify like, I'm not at this level. Like I'm not.
Well, once you get a blister,
It is.
Because you'll get a blister.
I did. I do have an eagle to my name. I don't know if I've ever told you that or not.
You said you hold one out for the middle of fairway.
From like 140 something.
I've never made an eagle in my life.
Complete luck. And it was uphill and you couldn't see the green. So when I mean like complete luck, like, I mean, swing and just jack it and it happened. And then this past weekend, I had a couple of pars, which I was excited about because I've never like I had an eagle.
Par's a good score, buddy.
I had an eagle, but I had never had a par, which is a wild, a wild place
Par's
to be
a
at.
good score.
So, no, I was happy. It was good.
Yeah. One of my favorite golf stories. I was playing with a buddy who is way better than me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shoot like 90s when if I'm really, really get it going, I can shoot like 88. That's how good I am.
Yeah.
And it was just the two of us, and we go to this course, and it was busy. So we got paired up with another twosome, who were these two ladies who were like, I'm probably late 20s at the time. He's early 30s. These ladies were probably like mid 40s, 50, and this is not what we were looking for.
Sure.
And but whatever, because we're playing the first hole, and I'm next to the green, and like I get over the ball, and I'm gonna bump and run it, which means nothing to you, and then I decide I open my stance, and now I'm gonna loft it, and I just like 2 or 3 times, and I literally step back. I look at my buddy, and I said, "Is it clear I have no idea how to play this shot?" And of course, with some profanity mixed in, he said, "Just hit the ball." Right. So I hit it, and it went like bloop, bloop, bloop in. Okay. And this is the first one. These two ladies thought I was the greatest golfer of all time. And he's just like shaking his head. And I picked it up, and I walked away. And there we go. And they quit after 9. So the back 9 went fast.
Yeah. Oh, that helps.
Yes.
That helps a lot.
So you get those moments. It's like the moments. If like I play by myself sometimes, depending on how work's going and whatever, and I'll just show up at the course and go out and play. Yeah. And then you get to a group, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to play through?" And you get that pressure. That's the most pressure-packed tee shot I'll ever hit in front of like 3 people. Yeah. And one time I was on number 8 at the challenge at the White Deer, where it's the downhill par 3, and there's a pond, and it's just like you run up, and the guys are like, "No, take your time." I was like, "No, don't worry about it." And I just run up, and I high up. And I hit it to about 10 feet and they were like, they really thought I was good. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm just going to drive away quickly, and they'll never see me again.
Can I tell you, because we have about 4 minutes before we hit the hour mark. Can I tell? So this is the story, and I want to tell it because it's a good friendship story. Like, it's really how to relate to people and how to like make them understand stuff. So we're golfing. I hit the shot. It goes up. We're 150 yards out, and they're like, "That was a hell of a shot," but we didn't really think much of it. My buddies in the carts ahead of me get there first, and they don't see the ball on the green, and we were pretty sure. So as we're pulling up, I can see my friend like going over, and as he's getting closer and closer, he looks at me, he's like this, and he goes like this. And so my friends are going nuts, and they were awesome. And so like I walk over, and I kind of have this sheepish grin on my face because I don't know what I'm doing, and I pull ball. They made me hold the flag. We took the picture, like all this stuff. They were awesome, and they treated me really well. So we get back in the cart, and we're going, and after like a hole or two, my buddy kind of looks at me. He's like, "You don't know what you did, do you?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like I said, he goes, "You should be excited." And I was like, I am. He goes, "What do you think you did in terms of basketball?" And I said, "Oh, it's like hitting a half court shot." He goes, he's like, "Jeff," he goes, "if we took someone in
it's
the
like
gym,"
hitting one from the locker room.
He said to me, he goes, "If we took someone who had never played basketball before and locked them in a gym, by the afternoon, they would have made a half-court shot." He goes, "What you did," he goes, "is not comparable to any." He goes, "People golf their whole life."
Yeah.
And he's like, they don't get to knock in an eagle from 150 out. So I was so fortunate to have him tell me that, because what happened is, as the rest of the day goes along, they're telling people like, "Hey, he knocked in, like, hole, whatever," and stuff like that. And I would have acted
and they're like, "He made it, and he sucks."
No, right. And so I was so thankful that he did that for me, because I think he got nervous that I was acting so nonchalant as we were telling people. So I was looking like a jerk, because I was looking like
everybody does that, don't they?
And so it dawned on him like, oh, like he doesn't know. And so from then on out, I was very gracious and like I got, you know what I mean? Like I caught hang of what I needed to do. So like, just, it's important to have good friends. Bad times, good times. You need people that are willing to put into context in ways you understand, so that you can navigate the world.
Have you ever had this with in coaching, where we always talk about the parents who think their kids are way better than they are, which happens a lot. But the parents who don't really know the sport or whatever, and they know their kid's pretty good, and then you tell them like, "No, what your kid does, kids can't do. Like your kid is one of the elites." And they're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, that's not. Yeah. Other kids can't do that. So yes, your kid's your kid's probably the best kid in our league.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh.
And
It's like,
it dawns
you're
on
like,
them.
yeah, just wait till you watch him play some of these games, and
Right.
you're going to see that the other kids just can't do what he does.
Sure.
So, or
That's
she,
good.
I guess.
That's
So,
nice.
yes.
Thanks for letting me do that.
Well, there you
Appreciate
go.
it. Thank
There
you
you go.
guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. Bogue says to play him. Bogue wants you on the course. He wants you on the 9.
I hurt my ankle last winter. It's getting better. I bought a brace for it, like one of those in a kind of a wraparound, like it's like a cheap getting your ankle taped by yourself.
No, I get it.
I was always afraid that like it's my left ankle and you just kind of roll on it all the time. It's my front because I'm right-handed. And I thought like it's healing. I can tell it's getting better. And if I go out and play 18 holes and take 100 swings and keep rolling on it and I hurt it again, I'm going to go like beat myself up.
Just tell him rain check. Just look into the screen.
So but I really think I might be close. And he would be entertaining to play golf with, I think.
That's an understatement.
I think there would be I think that would be a fun.
I mean, we could do the Midday Show Classic somewhere. I mean, that could be a thing.
I think he could be fun to play with. I think there would be there would be an energy level. He would bring a caffeinated level. Golfers are calm.
Okay.
I don't know if he's calm enough to be a golfer.
That's a very, very fair point. I look forward to the Midday Show Classic next summer.
There you go.
We're going to set it up. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Bever. He's Mark Messina, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Later.